All right, now we're supposed to be doing middle game puzzles, so I have to apologize to the ICC, but we usually do a special puzzle for the last puzzle, and I wanted to show you this puzzle because I always thought it was kind of a fun puzzle. In fact, the first time I did this puzzle from a book, the position was wrong. They had the king on c3 instead of c4, and there was no answer to the puzzle. And I'm sitting there doing it for a while, and I said, boy, you know, if the king was on c4, there would be an answer to this puzzle, but since it's not, I can't find the answer. And it turned out that the diagram was wrong and the king was on c4. So I'm giving it to you right now. This is called a retractor puzzle. What in the heck's a retractor puzzle? In a retractor puzzle, white has to retract the move and then do something. So in this case, white has to take back his last move and instead checkmate black in one move. So let's explain that again. So white has just made a move, so it's black's turn. But instead of black making his turn, white's going to say to black, wait, that was a mistake. I didn't want to do that. I'm going to take back my last move, and then I want to play a different move. All right, so that's your requirement for this puzzle. Take back your move, and then make a different move, and that different move has to be checkmate, a legal checkmate against the black king. So this is a retractor. White to take back his last move and instead checkmate black. All right, again, you can stop the video and work on this. All right, well, let's say white did nothing. And let's say white wanted to say, oh, instead I could get a queen. You know, let's say he gets a queen here. And we take the pawn off. Well, if he did nothing in this, then black has, you know, several moves to get out of check. So we need to take back a move so that when we queen, we can guard a lot of those squares. Well, if you notice, if this pawn was over here on e5, then it would be guarding two of those three squares. So let's put a black pawn on f6 and a white pawn on e5. And instead of playing e takes f6, let's go up and get a queen. All right, well, we're getting close now because black can't take here and he can't take there, and we can see why the king needs to be on c4 to guard d5, but the problem is, what about that f5 square? How do we ever guard that? How do we ever checkmate him using this sequence by taking back a move and getting a queen if we have to guard f5? Well, that's actually not as hard as it looks once you look at it this way. So if we go back to this position, notice this would be checkmate if the black pawn was on f5 instead. So now it's checkmate. But what in the heck could this be? Well, what this could be is one of those en passants. All right, so if we go back two moves and we make it black's move, black has played here, f5. White has played here, e takes f6 en passant to reach the retractor position. Instead, white retracts his move and says, no, what I should have done is played e8 checkmate. And of course, this is the only answer to the problem. Now, one of the reasons why this problem wasn't as hard for me, and one of the reasons I was able to solve it, except for the fact that the king was on c3 instead of c4, so there was no solution, was that when I see puzzles like this, I start automatically thinking three things: castles, en passant, and under promotion. Well, here castles is not going to be an issue for either side. Under promotion, white can under promote, but how's that going to cover more squares unless there's some sort of stalemate? So under promotion is not an issue. But when I see the pawn on f6, after all, this is what I saw, then I start thinking, well, if there's a white pawn on the 6th rank, a white pawn on the 6th rank can always capture en passant. So I start thinking, well, maybe there was a black pawn on f7, and there's a white pawn on g5 or e5, and then somehow black pushed that pawn up to f5, and white was able to capture and create that position. So that could have happened with a pawn on either square. So we could have started like this, or we could have started like this. But then it becomes apparent that I need to guard d6 when I promote, so a pawn on g5 isn't going to work. It's got to be on e5. So again, making it black's move here, f5, pawn up, queen. So again, this is called a retractor. We start with this position, and we say white has to take back that move and checkmate. All right, and I find these problems to be very, very helpful in getting to be a better player, because you're not going to do every problem like this, as we always say when you do these fourth problems, which are a little different. They help you think about chess, how the pieces move, how the pieces work together. I have to create a mating pattern in my mind, which is things I have to do in a real game. Here I have to imagine, how in the world could I possibly have a mate? If I take back a move and make another move, how could I possibly cover all those squares? And the idea in your brain of how to cover squares and how to create checkmate patterns, that comes up in regular chess all the time. So these kind of exercises, exercise your brain, get you thinking about how the chess pieces move and so on, and make you a better player. Now, do I suggest doing all puzzles like this? Of course not. Okay, but doing special puzzles like this once in a while can really help you understand how the pieces move and what their power is.